Good day, everybody. Chief Troy again here with some more IR cooking. And today I'm going to make some molasses cookies. Alright, so standard stuff I use my bowl, spoon, spatula, and of course the sift, just to get out any clumps of the flour and whatnot. And of course I have my cookie sheet over there, and the oven will be set to 350. I'll turn it on shortly. And my handheld mixer. You can use the big fancy one if you wish, but that's perfect. So today I'm going to use a cup of packed brown sugar. I'm using yellow brown sugar, light brown sugar, and you can use dark if you wish. That's up to you. 3/4 of a cup of butter, real butter. You can use shortening if you want. The butter I'm using today is unsalted butter, but you can also use salted. It makes no difference. 1/4 of a cup of molasses, and it's just molasses that you can get in any store, really. Fancy molasses. 1 egg. All right. So then we got 2 1/4 cups of just all-purpose flour, and we use 2 teaspoons of baking soda. After that, we have a teaspoon each of ground cinnamon and ground ginger. All right, so then after that, we have a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cloves and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, just enough. And then we also use about 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar. All right, you don't need the expensive sugar, just something that's just got a little bit more grain to it. All right, so then we're gonna turn the oven on, preheated to actually 325, sorry, not 350. And so I'm gonna do that now. All right, so oven now is on, and it's going to preheat itself to 325, and we'll just get right into it now, and we'll start getting everything together. So what you want to do first is just take your bowl, and well, you can use a large, medium, whatever. So I use the larger bowls as a 3-bowl set. This is the larger one of it. All right, so first thing you want to put inside there is your brown sugar, sorry. And so just take it off. And put your brown sugar in there. All right, pick up the mess at the same time. Sort of garbage out. And then you want to take your softened butter and put it inside the bowl with your brown sugar. Alright, so now once you got that in there, you just want to start mashing it together so that it has a chance to blend and mix together and incorporate each other. Alright. Obviously, just doing this with a spoon is going to take some time. However, eventually I will use the mixer on this. Alright. It will substantially help make incorporating it a lot better than just using a spoon. Alright. So I just want to do enough for now just to get it going. Obviously, the softer the butter, the much easier it's going to be to incorporate it together. All right, so I just want to leave that alone there for a little bit. So once you have that together, you'll take your molasses and you will pour your molasses in there. So I just put it in there, don't worry about it, just pour it in. Something I always do, just not everybody does this, but you notice how when you pour it in, there's always some left on the bottom. There's not a huge amount. So what I typically do, if it says like, you know, put a quarter of a cup, I'll put a quarter cup and I'll put an extra teaspoon just to make up for all of that extra that gets left behind. All right, so just kind of get that a little incorporated. Don't have to worry about it too much yet because you still got to use the mixer in there anyway. So it's just to get it started, so to speak. All right. So then you want to get your egg going. Now I like to crack the egg and actually mix it, scramble it first, I should say. And I don't mean scramble it to cook it. Just scramble it up, just so that the white and the yellow is all blended together. And once you got that look together, just pour it in there. Now you'll start to notice that you get a little bit more runny texture, watery texture, which makes it perfect for using the mixer, which is what I'm going to do in a moment as soon as I clean this off here. So once you got the spoon clean off a little bit, well, because I use my finger, I'll wipe my finger clean first. All right. So now you want to take your mixer and just get ready with it, and just make sure it's all in there good, and just whip it together. I usually start off at a low speed and then work my way up to a little bit of faster speed. And the reason I do that is I don't like to make a mess and have it flying everywhere. Alright, so we're not done mixing everything together yet. So I just wanted to, you don't want to blend it too much because where you're putting eggs in there, you don't want the eggs to become like a froth. So you want it to incorporate it, but you don't want to incorporate it too much. So what we're going to do now is just add all of the extra ingredients now. So we're going to put the salt inside here. And we're going to put the cloves. Now, because the cloves and the ginger and the cinnamon and even the flour and even the baking soda really, well, it possibly can have like little thicker chunks to it. Just put it through the sift to actually make it a lot easier, and you don't get any chunks inside there. All right, so there's the cloves, and you can just shake it through the sieve. If there's any chunks, you can just you know, work it through. And you put your baking soda. Same thing. Just make sure there's no clumps. And you can put your ginger and your cinnamon side there. And just work it through. And of course, you can, I don't know if you can see or not. I'll show you, try to show you. That's what I'm talking about when you get those little clumps. All right, so you just, once you got them down through like that, then you can just make sure it goes all through the sieve. That way you don't get these big, huge clumps inside your batter. And you just want to mix that all together again. Now, one thing I didn't get was my spatula. So once you got it all mixed in there pretty good, like that, then you can start using your spatula as well and start incorporating it. Now, we don't really need the mixer anymore. However, I do like to save as much of the batter as I can. So I'll put that through there. And now you want to take your flour and start adding your flour. So I prefer not to use the mixer when I do use the flour. I like to just use the spatula to just fold in and incorporate it. That way it's got a better mix. Alright. And you just slowly mix it all together, get it incorporated. So if you're one of those people that when you cook you make a mess and flour goes everywhere, that's kind of like me sometimes. Actually, a lot of times. That doesn't matter. Just enjoy the cooking process. It's all fun. Alright, so now you just put the other half of your flour inside there. Let's go through the sieve. And once that's all through, then you just finish incorporating the flour into the batter. Now, of course, if you had one of those fancy like KitchenAid mixers, this works out really awesome because those machines are awesome. But of course, I don't have one of those. So, handheld mixers and handheld tools, spatulas and whatnot, they all work just as fancy, just as good. They're just not as fancy. But that's all good. The whole idea is just to make them and blend it all together. You don't need the big expensive tools. Makes it a lot easier, mind you, but you don't really need them. Alright. So once you got it all together and it's fairly well incorporated, well, I shouldn't say really fairly well, it is incorporated. You don't have any like areas where you got, you know, just a big spot of flour and there's nothing there. You want to make sure it's really blended well. All right. So you get it all in there. Kind of like make a little. It will tend to make its own little ball in the center of your bowl, but it's fine. All right. So once you got that done, just clean your hands a little bit so that you don't make a mess everywhere, like I always seem to do. That's all right. All right, so once you clean your hands, and of course the oven is ready for, it's at 325. So now what you want to do is you just want to take your tray, cookie tray, and you just want to get a tablespoon. Any tablespoon will do. Now you don't have to make these super precise, all right? You can make them so that they're a tablespoon. You can make them a teaspoon, whatever size you want. It's up to you. All right, so but approximately a tablespoon size piece of dough. Roll it together, and you'll notice that I did not put the sugar into the batter. That's because the sugar is going to be used to take the rolled cookie, and you're going to put sugar over the top of your cookie. And you're going to make approximately 12 per batch. 12 per tray, and it should make approximately 3 dozen cookies. All right. Now they will obviously, like any other cookie, they will flatten out and spread out. So when you put them on the tray, on your cookie sheet, trying to put them about, about 2 inches or so from each other. Give them room to expand and grow. Grow into a piece of loveliness. Alright, so just get them in there. Now obviously there's different times, different reasons you would want to make molasses cookies. You can make them, a lot of times, I know a lot of people that used to make them for, like during the Halloween type season. However, my grandmother and my mother used to make them a lot of times for during Christmas as well. But my grandmother always used to make them just to make them because they were good. So just get them going. And once you got 12, obviously, I mean, you probably could put more than that on a tray, but you want to leave a little bit of room anyway, alright? So a good 12 is good enough on one tray. Now after they're done, then you take them out of the oven. It's obviously better to, as soon as you take them out, use an egg flipper, I call them, spatula, and just take them out of your cookie sheet. And if you have a wire rack for cooling, a cooling rack, that's best obviously. But if you don't have that, it's fine. You can put them on like a cutting board or something just so they can cool off. You want to take them off the tray, because if you don't take them off the tray, off the cookie tray, they're just going to keep cooking. And you don't want to have them cook too much extra, because then they'll all get dry inside and they'll be just overcooked, and they won't be as good. They're still going to be good, but they won't be as good. Now, of course, if you leave them in there too long and they get burnt, well, I guess it all depends on how much you like burnt cookies. But they should be fine if you just keep an eye on them. You only leave them in the oven for anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes. However, it's going to depend on your oven. So you can put them on convection if you want. However, when you put them on convection, you typically, if you don't lower the temperature, they do cook a lot faster on convection. So you're better off lowering the temperature, and that way you don't burn them. All right. But I don't like using convection when I'm baking stuff. I find that most recipes that I've always come across, they don't tell you in the convection way, they tell you in the normal baking way. So normal baking way to me is you just put it on bake, you don't put it on convection. So there you go. Once you got 12 on there, just set your batter aside. And now obviously your hand's going to be a bit greasy because there's butter inside that. Just rinse your hands off. Wipe them down. And then you can put them in the oven. And you set your timer. Now, I set my timer for 14 minutes, but that's because I noticed that this oven in particular, no matter what my recipes always say, you always got to add another minute or two. So I'll put 14 minutes, then I'll just keep an eye on them, and then I'll take them out when they're done. Alright, so I'll be back when they're done. Alright, so the timer just went off, and I did have to put 2 more minutes, so 16 minutes. So 16 minutes for these molasses cookies. As you can see, they look pretty good. And I'll just set them down here. Kind of let them cool off for, try and let them cool off for, 30 seconds, a minute or so before you take them off of the tray anyway. Because They will be a bit soft, or they should be. They're not going to be hard. Okay, so you just want to let them cool off for a little bit. And of course, I just have a cutting board that I'm going to put them on to cool off. All right, so once they're off of there, so I'll just take them off of the tray now and just put them onto the cutting board. Just let them cool off without continuing to cook. All right. So I just want to take them off. All right. So once you got them off, you can set up again to do your next batch. And of course, I did forget to mention, always use parchment paper. It's a really good idea to use parchment paper on everything you, especially cookies that you bake in an oven. All right, so because I'm like that, and cookies are done, let's just see what they're like, and they just fold open ever so gently. Oh, taste test. Oh, wow. Marvelous stuff. All right. Well, that is molasses cookies. I hope you enjoyed. And if you ever decide to try them, trust me, they are delicious. All right. So cheers and enjoy. Have a good day.